going. Recording's up, same as per usual. Just be a minute or so while I'm looking for something to talk about.
Mhm.
Okay, like the amp out of spawns, good idea. Okay. Okay, pretty decent amp. Yeah, right now we're kind of just focusing on taxing around the Reinhardt, which is okay to do.
I think that's maybe a problem too, like because I'll pick Lucio when we have like Ryan. I think I
Mhm.
tunnel on Ryan too much.
Yeah, that's definitely someone we'll keep an eye on. Their amp gets wasted. So notice, for example, how we're amping heals pretty much here at the moment, and then just take a look at
Yeah.
like our surroundings at like who actually needs healing. I think Anna's the only
Mhm.
one who needs healing, and she's all the way back there. I think that's outside of your aura, so we're not even gonna be able to amp her at that point. So just watch the amp
Mhm.
when nobody needs healing, right?
Okay.
Amp healing is when people need extra healing, and this is, when nobody needs healing, then that's just wasted ability.
Okay.
Okay. Yep, right now I want to just be speeding in.
Whoa! You're going a little. Pick it up, pick it up. I feel this in my
Okay. Let's
accelerated.
talk for a minute on target priority. Now, this is probably something that I don't think that we would have covered it because you play Ana, and this is not
Yeah.
commonly something that we cover on Ana. Have we ever covered target priority before?
We spoke more about target priority when it came to like healing and like nanos
Yeah.
and stuff like
Mm,
that. Yeah.
yeah, so now we're talking about enemy target priority, right? Who do you want to be looking at? Who do you want to be shooting at on most characters in the game? And
Mhm.
you basically have two general concepts: the easiest to kill, and then also the highest value to kill. Value can be like, okay, who maybe this person has their ultimate, or they're carrying, or they have, maybe it's a great it's a character who's doing a lot if left uncontested, that sort of thing. Or also tanks usually have a lot of burst potential, stuff like that. But then easiest is who's the easiest to kill? That's probably the simplest one that also has very high impact on who you're looking at. The easiest to kill, you can kind of think through this, and and the first step to take is thinking through, okay, well, who's the hardest to kill? And the hardest thing to kill, the hardest role to kill in the game by design is tanks. Tanks have 2 to 3 times the health of other characters. They have armor. They have tanking abilities and shields. They have, they're gonna be able to get healed the easiest out of any characters, and therefore, tanks do not die very easily. Whoop-de-doo. And therefore, we probably don't want to be focusing them or spending most of our game shooting at them, whereas that's pretty much been the only thing we've been looking at so far this game is just Orisa, and that's it. So I'd recommend look at other characters. Orisa should only be the thing we're looking at if she's low, out of position, if she's the only thing we can look at because she's right on top of us, or if we just, if you don't have any other opportunities to get her, then, if she's the last person alive, feel free to go and shoot at her. But if you have other options, right, like, so this would be equal opportunity, right? So this would be an example of equal opportunity, where, for example, notice how, okay, firstly, maybe could be going and seeking out other characters, such as like jumping up to the high ground with other characters. But notice, for example, how we have Sojourn and Orisa, and then we choose to look at Orisa. And we have Ana and Orisa, and we choose to look at Orisa, right? So much, much easier targets to kill, and yet we're looking at the hardest character to kill. And that's going to mean that we're not going to be nearly as effective with our damage. That whole concept makes sense. Any questions with it?
No, no, that makes sense. Like if we I guess given like the tank role and like you spoke about like 2 to 3 times more health, like killing out their backline or their squishies first kind of just secures a a team fight win, pretty
Yeah,
much.
exactly. Like for sure, go for it if you got the opportunity. Otherwise, that's not who you want to be focusing, and that's who we've kind of almost been exclusively looking at. So
Okay.
we want to make. Also, you're not going to be as a even. You're also. Oh, I don't even know if I remember who that is. I think that's someone I coached. I don't know if that was an accident or
No, it's fine. Don't worry.
not. All right. So to continue, let's keep going.
I see.
Yeah, I'm still focused on Orisa. Speed out of it. Yeah, it was a misclick. Like I said. Alright, still focused on Orisa. Still focused on Orisa. Right now we see the Kiriko on the side. Alright, now we're swapping targets. Okay. Why don't we take a moment to talk about a bunch of things like Lucio
Okay.
playstyle, Lucio, like, how do you want to approach the game, things like that. So, Lucio. When it comes to your playstyle as Lucio, this is effective in Overwatch 1, and it is even more effective in Overwatch 2 to be a DPS Lucio, right? That was something that, like, even in Overwatch 1, you'd have consistently number one support players being, DPS Lucios. Whether that be Funny Astro, Red Shell, yada yada, there's a ton of them, right? And DPS, when you're DPSing, you don't want to just be spamming the tank the whole time, like we've been talking about. But as Lucio, let me ask you this question: do you have high burst damage?
I don't actually know, but I want to say yes.
Here we go.
Okay.
Right, where
Oh, yeah.
Widowmaker can one tap, Hanzo can one tap, Soldier can one tap, Soldier can go pop 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 dead, right? Lucio can theoretically, if you're landing every single shot, you can go like tap tap tap, boot melee, and that's a kill. But that's not gonna happen in a lot of cases. Lucio as a character does not have very high burst damage. He's much more consistent in his damage. And as Lucio, what is your primary speciality? What's the reason why you ever pick Lucio?
Just your mobility. Yeah.
Here we go. Oh, that looks painful. There goes the drop. Too close.
Yeah.
Back off. Too close. Hey, B flat.
No, that makes sense.
Let's get loud. This is my favorite part.
Definitely.
Let's get some
Um,
healing beats going.
Yep. So in our game so far, we haven't really been on the squishies too much, which should be very effective.
Welcome to Ready for Battle.
So here, for example, one idea would be rather than just sitting on cart, we could be going and getting up to the high ground, and then that we could be booping someone off of high ground. We could be potentially waiting for most of them to drop and then contesting the people that stay up there, looking to take like a one, like who's likely to stay up there on their team.
Yeah, probably the soldier and
Yeah, maybe
do that.
Sojourn as well, right? And so anybody who's staying up there, maybe we could boop them off into our like Reinhardt and Junkrat, because that's where our team would prefer, is maybe a bit closer range. Boop them into the Widow headshots, or potentially even dueling them up there if just if it's one person who's staying up there. Okay.
Party time, let's go!
Yeah, it looks like we're holding right key potentially there, so just hold W. Help you a bit smoother with the wall riding. You can start if you're just looking, if you're doing like backwards wall riding, then you can start to use the other keys. It's really for when you're like moving around. So it's not a never, but it's just a look to avoid it if you're just like, moving forwards. You're not going to want to hold your side keys, but there when you're backwards wall riding, of course you can.
Let's get some healing beats going.
Okay.
Let's get some healing beats going.
Amp, right? Like here we kind of amp heals and then we amp speed and then we back out. Just gotta be careful about like how we're using our amps, because that didn't really seem too effective. Uh-oh, here make sure we're not running into a Reinhardt.
Yeah. Yeah, when I died there, I was like, what did I just do? Yeah. I got too tunneled on. Yeah.
Yeah, that one's a bit simple. All right, so let's for example watch this wall ride back. Notice how we don't jump off the doorway. And then we come out here and we're kind of running down, instead of running to the left side wall, we're running straight down the middle. And then we go and get the wall, so we probably would have been a little bit faster if we didn't. And then we could have jumped off this little wall, we could have jumped off that little corner, we could have jumped off this little corner. So it's a series of tiny little hops is all that wall riding is, right? Wall riding isn't just sliding along the wall and sliding along the wall. It's a series of this object to that object, this object to that object, and it's going to speed you up so much more because we get those speed buffs from that.
Back off. This is an uphill fight. Careful.
Okay, right now we want to be taxing our team back. So whenever your team is dead and respawning, we can go back to spawn and speed them back because we can regroup sooner, which saves us time. Instead of just sitting here, which isn't going to be super effective. We already have our ultimate. Sitting here is not really going to do anything for us. So we'd be much better off speeding them back.
No one can hide from my sight.
Okay, right now we're very isolated from our team, where we probably could have gone up with our team to high ground. So we're kind of off on our own when there's no reason to be down here.
Look at this payload go. Good lord. Catch these healing waves. Let's get loud. Let's do it fast.
Okay. Pretty solid boot. Once again, kind of. Now at that point, fight's already won. But once again, noticing how like we didn't really look at anything aside from their Reinhardt that fight.
Yeah.
This is my favorite part.
Okay, another kind of wasted amp. So, let's talk about amp and then crossfade real quick. Your healing versus speed. I think we've been decent on healing versus speed. But just to, minorly so that we get it all out of the way, like what's the theory behind it? You use healing anytime that you're not going anywhere or if you need healing. So healing if needing healing, or if you or your team are not in movement. If you or your team are in movement, which is going to be a lot of the time, if you or your team are going anywhere, which will make up a good percentage of your gameplay, you're probably going to be on speed slightly more than you're on healing throughout your games. I'd say it's, at this point, maybe about like a 60-40 split, roughly speaking. It's going to differ from game to game, so maybe you might have a game where it's 50-50, you might have a game where it's leaning more towards speed. It'll depend on what characters you're running with, what map it is, how much damage you're all taking, etc. But roughly speaking, I'd say it's about a 60-40. You're speeding 60% of the time, healing 40% of the time. You speed anytime you're going anywhere. If somebody is in need of healing, then you're on healing. Or if you're just chilling around on cart, or you're just sitting somewhere, then you're on healing, right? Because obviously, if you're just sitting there, then speed's not needed. So that's the basic theory behind it. Then amp is just amplifying the healing or amplifying the speed. So, quite simply, you use amplify when you either need to go somewhere very, very fast or you need extra healing. What's a situation in which you would ever need to go somewhere very, very fast?
If we need to like disengage, or if
Yep.
like we want to engage on them, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Trying to sprint into their team, right, with our team, trying to back out right away from an ultimate, or maybe we're trying to speed our ultimate into them, like, if we're speeding our Genji in or something like that with a blade. You can amp speed if you're trying to cross big, wide open space out in the open. You can amp speed if, in situations that you're trying to escape, if you're trying to get in and swoop in to get a kill, right? Like, let's say you see someone who's 1 HP, maybe you swoop in with your amp speed to go and finish off the kill and then get out, right? What about amp healing? When what would be a situation for amp heals?
I guess if like I see like a team member like critical, I can amp them, or if like my team just gets engaged on, maybe like, oh, that might be hard because disengage and heal.
Yeah. Um, not always with the critical, but usually you're right. It's the general idea, because somebody could be critical and around the corner and perfectly safe, and it might be better to just hold on to the ability. It'll kind of depend on the
Mhm.
situation. But some not always, but yes, most of the time, when someone's critical, especially the more people need healing, big group healing. Right, if multiple
Yeah.
people need healing, that's going to be another time for the amp heals. So you just want to be thinking about those times. A lot of times here, it looks like it's kind of getting wasted. Like there, we just amped when nobody needed healing, no one was going anywhere, right? So kind of just pressing the ability, this big long cooldown when it's not doing anything. Okay, Sojourn's 1 up there.
Feel it, wheel it beat.
This ends now.
Too close.
Yeah, good melee.
DDT.
Okay, they just got Blade. I don't know if they ever used that before, but they just got it apparently. Speed, speed, speed.
Yeah, I was waiting for that because the last point, so like I guess
Mhm.
before we hit third, their Genji didn't blade, so I was specifically just holding beat for the
Mhm.
blade at that point. Yeah.
Yep. Here, notice how we're just kind of chilling here when we probably should be speeding to go clean up those kills. We're just kind of chilling on cart, so we want to be on speed so we can catch up to the Genji and stuff like that when he's running away, and possibly the Kiriko too. Don't be afraid, like, to go and wall right up to him on the high ground there to go and contest him. Gotta be careful because we kind of ran up on top of the Reinhardt again there, so just be careful getting within his swing range. Oh, we did it again. Gotta be a little bit careful. You can step in real quick for a boop, but I wouldn't stay in longer than that.
Yeah, especially when he's nano, and I would die in like 2 swings, maybe 3.
Yep, or if he's 1 HP and you're finishing him off. Once again, watch the health bars of teammates. Maybe not needing the amp there. Okay. Here, once again, maybe could go push forwards, get close to you guys. So generally speaking as well, if you're looking to damage someone, what's your range on Lucio?
Mid to close range?
Probably more like close range, right?
Close range, okay.
What's your range on your boot?
I'm gonna say like close range. I don't even really know.
Yeah, boop, I believe is 3 meters. I don't think it's 5. It might be 5. I don't think it's 5 though. I think it's 3 meters. We can test that next time I go to the training range. So therefore, that is very much a close range. That's not mid range. 3 meters is not mid range. 15 meters plus is mid range, right? So
Okay.
very close range. What about melee? What's melee's range?
That's close range.
Even closer than Boop, right? It has been closer of
Yeah,
a range than
correct.
Boop does, okay? And then like we discussed before, that's gonna be a lot, not all of it, but it's gonna be a good, decent, consistent part of your damage is Boops and melees. What about your gun? What is your gun? Mid, close, long?
I mean, you can shoot it from long, but I want to say like you probably want to be close because it's spread, right? It's a projectile, so
Well, it doesn't have spread per se. Spread would be like the more you
yeah, not
shoot, the
spread.
further apart they get. But they're projectiles, and projectiles by nature are harder to land at ranges because by the time you shoot it and it gets there, if you're really far away, they've already moved out of the way. Right, so you have to
Yep.
aim ahead of where they're moving. Whereas when you're on top of somebody, then you just aim on their head and then you're good, right? So they're more difficult inherently to land at ranges. And then also further away you are, targets are smaller, they're harder to hit. So most of your kit, like if you're dueling enemies, wants to be on them, on top of them, but then kind of a lot of the times that we're trying to now don't do that if it's a character who is better at close range than you, unless you're finishing them off, right? So be careful about like just going and running into a Reaper or a Reinhardt or a Junkrat or a Mei. Be careful of that, unless they're low HP and you can finish them off, right? So if Reinhardt's 1, if Junkrat or Reaper are 1 HP, then don't worry about it. Just swoop in and boop them and they're dead, right? But if otherwise, be careful about doing that against people who have better close range than you. But generally speaking, you're looking for close range. Now, does that mean that you always want to be inside of the enemy team? No, by no means. It just means that, like we've said before, you're an opportunist. Swoop in, shoot at them from real close, maybe get a kill, swoop out, right? You're very fast, have high mobility. So here in this situation where it's just 2 people up there, and your team, Reinhardt's pushing in, you might maybe want to be up like where Reinhardt's at, to like, to boop him off. Or here, we can stay here and boop him off. Either works. There you go. I'm just more so talking about the range, because a lot of the times when we're shooting at people, we end up kind of backing up towards mid-range or just a little bit too far.
Okay. Also in this note, they ended up having a lever, but they swapped to Winston.
Okay.
It actually was a lot harder for me playing
Mhm.
Lucio with their Winston because I wasn't really sure because Winston's super mobile, right? So it was like it was harder to figure out what to do.
Mhm. Well, what was the issue? Was he like kind of tearing up your back line? Was he killing you, or like what was the issue with Winston?
He started to dive like our backline a bit more. I had issues trying to figure out because when the enemy team had a Reinhardt, and we already spoke about this, right? Like I was tunneling a lot on their main tank, but like
Mhm.
everything was a bit more compact to the sense where okay, like we have our kind of core unit, keep my Reinhardt moving. But now that like Winston could dive the back line, I have to kind of spread my attention to making sure my Reinhardt's enabled, but also making sure my backline is protected, right? Like
Yeah.
Anna, for example, like
Mhm.
things like that. So it was because they're running more dive, I guess, right? Like Genji, Winston. It was the map kind of opened up a lot more for me, so I was kind of confused on where to be
Yeah.
a lot of the time. Yeah.
It'll be a little bit more situational of where you want to be, right?
Mhm.
Remember, as Lucio, you have it's such a fluid. Oh, sorry, one moment. Somebody leave the door open. Let me go close that real quick. All right, I'm back.
Yep.
So it's gonna be because your playstyle is very fluid. It's gonna kind of depend on what's going on around you, right? So you're adapting to the situation, right? So like as you said before, you're playing as an opportunist. You go in when you see opportunities. You go to Reinhardt when you see Reinhardt needs you, right? Does he need a speed to get somewhere? Does he need healing? Does he need support? And then if you see that the enemy team, let's say you see monkeys looking to line up a jump, then you start peeling back for your Ana and your Ash, and you look to like boop the tanks off and that sort of thing. So you're just gonna be a bit more fluid, and you want to pay attention to your surroundings, be aware of your surroundings, so you know who needs you at what time. It's not that you're going to like if you just go sit on top of your Ana the entire time. Can't Bap do that better? Can't, Brig do that better? Can't, aren't there other characters that can just sit on top and pocket your Ana, but better than Lucio can, right? That'd be the question. So you're gonna want to make sure that you're just adapting to what's going on, right? And being a bit more fluid about the gameplay. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Um,
that makes sense.
and we'll kind of see that as we go through here. Alright, so they're on Monkey. Notice how we saw Monkey going to the side, so we want to be like looking at like, okay, who's he going for? I think he went over the roof here, actually. So that's understandable that we didn't see him there.
Well, here you
Here
are.
we're amping when
Next up is
she's
me.
very much around the corner. Amp is healing, just as that reminder, it's line of sight based. So if they are around the
Okay.
corner, they do not get healing.
Oh, okay. So it's not like just like a range.
Nope, it's not just an aura. They have to be in line of sight of you. So,
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
yep.
Yeah.
Also, another minor point in case you didn't know this, if you look underneath your crosshair to the number there, that will display how many people are in line of sight and in your aura on that number. So
Okay.
right now there are 3 other people in our aura currently, which would be the Reinhardt, Junkrat, and Ana, who are currently in
Yeah.
line of sight and in aura. And then the ash is not in our aura. So that can be a little bit helpful sometimes. Not always something you need to pay attention to. Usually you get a feel for it. But here, yeah, she's definitely out of her line of sight, so amping does nothing.
Little hand here. Too close. Match this BPM.
Yeah, good backwards while riding. Okay, so my minor question would be, okay, there we go. We turn around. We weren't really paying attention to where Ana was, so that might make it a bit hard to counter dive if we're not paying attention to the Ana. The other thing right now, once
Mhm.
again, is that we're kind of like in this middle place where we're not necessarily, we're not placing ourselves close enough to Ana to be able to help her, and then we're also not,
Pick it up, pick it up.
we're being really slow to go and follow up to help her out, right? So notice how like we're so far back here that we have to like run this all the way over here to get to her. Make sure we're going for the boop when we get over to her. I guess, do we got it? We can boop yeah, okay, never mind. We didn't have boop available. Swap to the healing once you get close to her so you can heal her up. So the issue is that we're too far away. We get over to her and we don't heal, right? Those are a couple things that we probably could have done. Like, so we could have swapped the healing right about now, and then that maybe could help keep them alive. Um, yeah, that's pretty much that. Make sure if we're looking to counter dive, that we're actually much closer to be able to do that. Here, go in with your Reinhardt, speed him and speed him.
Back off. This through.
Okay, nice boop.
Get into this groove. Heel to this beat.
Okay, notice the amp heals on nothing. Okay. So this is a situation where, though it's not like the worst thing in the world, also like we don't really have an opportunity here, and she's just getting pocketed. Might be better off if we swap to the Kiriko to pepper the Kiriko. Maybe being on high ground might be a better idea here. That gives us a bit more cover to work with. Make sure we are using walls and not standing smack dab in the middle of the open. You standing closer to walls will also put us closer to cover, right? Good positioning being the usage of cover, so being closer to those will help us out. Here we're standing on the open, and then we're also make sure you're not just like holding down jump while you're out in the open and not using walls, because then that's just making it easier for people to headshot you. So that just gets us domed. So you just gotta be careful using cover. Okay, notice how we're not. Okay, we go off that wall, and then we stop, and we go off that wall, and we go off that. Okay, so that was a bit better. Bit inconsistent. Okay.
I don't know why I went to cart, to be honest.
Yep. When someone's on top of you, right? So let's say Monkey's on top of you, right? And he is damaging you, right? So somebody's on top of us, someone's damaging us. We're trying to get away. Let's say it's Genji, let's say it's Reaper, let's say it's whoever. Which is going to be more effective as a way to escape? Healing yourself while running away or speeding to run away?
In that situation, obviously, speed would be more beneficial.
Yeah, speed. With maybe like a rare, like if you need to amp heal because you're low HP, then amp heal. But you have to remember that the faster you're moving, the faster you escape damage, the less damage you'll take. So if we just get outside of Monkey's damage range, then he doesn't damage us and we don't need healing, right? But if we're healing and just sitting in his Tesla, he's just going to out damage our healing, and then we just are taking unnecessary damage, right? So here definitely could be speeding to get away, boop him to get him off of us. Here we kind of boop him, but then we run into him rather than running away from him. We swap to amp speed at too late, so we kind of mess everything up where we're running away into super far away from our team. We're running back into the fight when we're kind of down people. Or at least, I guess we have Anna over here in the corner here, but we're kind of off on our own, off on cart. Not booping him away, amping speed to get away from him way too late, right? So there's a bunch of things we could have done better there to get him off of us.
Let's get some healing beats going. Ladies and gentlemen, ready to activate the start your engines.
Okay. Maybe going and joining your Reinhardt probably would have been a decent idea there, rather than just kind of chilling on cart. I'm not really going to be doing very much chilling on cart. Like, us being on cart isn't really doing anything too much there. Good boop of the Reinhardt.
This ends now.
Let's break it. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why I beat it there. I think in the moment I heard Sojourn's ult go off, but maybe I mistaken.
No, she ulted. She ulted.
She ulted, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, is beating a Sojourn ult like worth it? Like, is that enough? It seems like kind of a waste. But,
It kind of will depend on the circumstance. I'd say a lot of the times. Trying to think. I would say Genji's probably a bit more. Genji or Kiriko are usually going to be a bit more consistent of ultimates to beat against. Kiriko ultimate, or sorry, Sojourn ultimate is avoided by using like cover and things like that. So I would probably only beat for that if the other two, like if they didn't have those other two. Like, so I'd say like that especially if they go for like a Kiriko blade, that would probably be a bit better of a combo ult to beat against. Does that make sense? 'Cause
Yeah,
I'd say
that makes sense.
it's a bit more consistent and a bit higher of a threat to your team. Okay. Notice that's like that's the first time we've ever shot at a support this game, and we go and boop her, and then we run away, right? Okay, so now we're trying to do a bit more, and we get the kill. Hey, right. So that's actually the type of thing you want to be looking to do. That was a good example of some of where we went and looked to boop them. Mercy there would be another opportunity. Yep, there you go. You got kills. Right. We go to the back line for 2 seconds, and we all of a sudden got stuff.
30 seconds.
Okay, monkey just left off of us. We probably would have been dead there, so make sure paying attention to the monkey. Using things to get away from him. I think we're just a little bit slow to get out of his damage range is the issue.
Hang in there.
Okay, and then they don't touch. That's a good game. Alright.
Yeah, it was done.
We got like 4 more minutes here. I'd like for a review until we do like the wrap up. Did you have another replay, or do you have questions about anything?
Um,
Everything making sense?
yeah, it makes sense. I think like I don't know. I guess how I'm trying to look at it is like for playing Anna, it's a little bit more structured in the sense where it's like, you sit in the back, you look for nades, you look for antis,
We're here.
you heal. But with Lucio, you're like kind of like in the fight, So
Yeah, it's
definitely very different. if that makes sense.
it requires a very different play style. Yeah, and it's a lot more in terms of needing to go around and do more things.
Yeah.
Actually, never mind. Boop range is 5 meters. It might actually be 6 meters, 7 meters. Sorry, I overestimated that or underestimated that. It's like 6. Can we do like 8 meters or like 9 meters? Oh no, so I think it's like 7 or 8 meters here. It looks like something around
Okay.
around that. Yeah. All right. So boop range is a bit further, but that's still a close range on people. And then melee has a range of. Now melee is more like the 3 meters. It looks like on people. So, sorry, I mixed that up a little bit, but look to stay within that range. Projectiles, you're gonna always be able to do the same, but not gonna be nearly as accurate from ranges.
Is there damage fall off on his projectiles?
No projectile in
No.
the game has damage fall off. Any
Okay.
Yep, projectiles by nature do not have fall off. Only hit scan shots have damage fall off, and then I believe every hit scan besides railgun has fall off.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Okay.
Alright.
Gotta go quick.
Yeah, I think it's just like you said, it's just my playstyle because I tend to consider myself more of a passive player for the most part, and
Yeah.
like even when I played Lucio back in like Overwatch 1, I always tended to be kind of just like trying to just be there, not really doing stuff. So yeah, it's definitely a change.
Yeah, it's definitely going to need to be a bit of a change in playstyle on how you approach it. All right. Well, I think that's about it for the moment. Then let me know if you think up any questions in the meanwhile. But let's do the review. Ability usage. Boop look to be a bit. You can contest with it. Boop people off. Contest with it. Like right. Reapers maybe a bit more of a common pick nowadays. Right. Reaper's close range, boop him away from your team, right? Look to contest him, put some pressure on him when he TPs into your backline and tries to get on your team. And you're going to be able to just put a lot of pressure on him to potentially kill him or even just to get him off, right? Like make him wraith and get away from your team, right? If he's trying to sneak up on your backline, just go boop, and then he has to now try to get out, which just puts a lot of pressure on him. Same thing with like Tracers and Genjis and Monkeys like you saw. Just put pressure on them and contest them. Then besides that, boops. We already talked about the range on it. Add it into your damage, which you were already pretty much doing. Not too much else that needs work on it. Then you got your amps. Amps, we wasted a lot of those. Be careful about wasting them. You want us to look to use them frequently, but think about situations that they're actually needed, right? Do people actually need healing? Do they actually need speed? Do we need an amped version of healing or an amped version of speed? Crossfade, heal when needed, or when just sitting there and not needing speed, and then you speed any other time. And that's going to be a lot of the time, as you're going to be speeding whenever you or your team is going anywhere. Overall, that went to, especially the crossfade and the amping, that went to maybe a medium priority for you to work on. Then comes your ult usage. Not too shabby. I think there's like the first one went well. Second one, maybe we just, ulted the wrong, beat it against the wrong thing. Maybe beating against the blade, which I don't think they ever actually used.
Yeah. They only used it once the first round. Yeah, they never. I don't know.
Back off.
Comes your mechanics, which includes your mechanical play style, right? Target priority. Don't shoot at the tank the entire game. Maybe put some pressure on the monkey, but you don't want, especially like a character like Orisa, there's not, and Reinhardt, you honestly don't even really need to be looking at them too much, right? You boop them around once in a while, but then even then, your boop does less to them, right? Your boop does, they have a boop reduction, so you're not gonna be able to do, you're not gonna be able to boop them as far as other characters, right? Boop these guys. Tanks, how much are we booping a tank? We're booping them almost as far. We're booping like 8 meters, right? So they have that boop reduction, so we want to be careful about focusing too much on them. They're hardest things to kill. Look at them only if we have the opportunity. Play as an opportunist, right? Go for those opportunities. We didn't really keep our eyes open for them at all. Watch for people being low, people being out of position. As soon as we went for the backline in that one fight, we just kind of tore them apart, and then we got a lot of value out of it. So watch for situations like that. Actively seek them out. I don't want to come back next session and have you going, oh, I'm dying every single fight because I'm in the middle of 5 players, and I'm and I'm like, oh, I didn't tell you to do that. What else is there? Go for consistent boops and melees in your duels. Aim all of your shots. Go for headshots. I think that's most of it, not mistaken. Overall, that one was a bit more like a higher end of a medium or lower end of medium high. It's a bit more important, right? Make sure we're actually looking to do things besides just sitting around. Then next comes your positioning. Positioning, stay a bit closer to walls, right? So you're able to wall ride. And wall riding, actually, I forgot about wall riding. That kind of comes into ability usage a little bit. That one, honestly, wasn't too shabby. I think, we could be doing it a bit better. Wall riding off of more things. Like, we'd coming out of spawn, and we'd only ride on half the walls that we could. So we'd come out of spawn and we'd wall right off of this thing, but then we'd skip over this thing, and then we would wall right off of this thing, and then we'd skip that thing, and we'd wall right off of this thing, and then we'd skip that thing, we'd wall right off of this thing. So we would, instead of going off of as many objects as possible, we would kind of go off of the every other, right? Rather than, does that make sense? So go off of as many as possible to keep our speed momentum up. And then back to positioning, stay near walls, cover usage, position. If you're trying to play for peel, don't play a mile away from your supports. Play closer to them. In your backline, play closer to them. And then overall, not too big of a deal though. That's probably low to medium. And then final thing is awareness and aggression, right? Pay attention to your surroundings. Where are you at? Where's your team at? What are they up to? What are their health bars? Are they in danger? Do they need you to speed them around? Are they trying to go in, right? Are they trying to back out? Make sure you're paying attention to where the enemy teams are. Are they diving your back line? What are they up to? What's their team comp on? Who can I be, who's the easiest thing to shoot at? That sort of thing. So make sure you're just paying attention to your surroundings. Overall, that wasn't a major thing. That probably went to lower end of a medium. to put all that in order, number 1 probably is going to be your mechanics and play style and stuff like that. Number 2 is probably going to be your abilities. Number 3 is probably going to be your awareness. 4 to your positioning, and then 5 ult usage we didn't really talk about too much. Any questions?
No, I think I'm pretty clear on like what to work on. Like, just anytime I play Lucio, like I try to just cycle between them now. So I'll start putting those into practice. I want to try to push for plat today if possible. So we'll see how that goes.
Gotta go quick.
Let's see. I'll get you your